Hello. The commission headed by Malenkov was simply stunned by the report on the Battle of Prokhorovka. Rothmistrov was practically deemed guilty, but luckily, Stalin prevented the unjust accusation. The Battle of Kursk is rightfully considered one of the most significant and large-scale battles of World War II. Just imagine, more than 4 million soldiers, about 69,000 guns and mortars, and no less than 13,000 tanks and self-propelled guns participated from both sides. In terms of its ferocity and unparalleled tenacity, it has no equal in world history. For 50 long summer days of 1943, two powerful armies waged continuous battles. The earth burned underfoot, soldiers perished by the thousands, metal melted under heavy fire. Historians unanimously recognize this battle as a turning point in the Great Patriotic War between the USSR and Germany. The most intense, the most dramatic episode of the Battle of Kursk is undoubtedly the battle near the Prokhorovka railway station, located on the southern face of the Kursk salient. It was here on July 12, 1943, that two powerful armored forces clashed, deciding the fate of the entire confrontation in a titanic struggle. The question arises, why is this battle called decisive? And why, after such heavy losses, did Stalin intend to court-martial Lieutenant General of the Soviet Army, Pavel Alexeyevich Rothmistrov? Detailed answers to these and other questions related to the Battle of Prokhorovka can be found in our video. Subscribe to our channel, like the video, and click the bell so you don't miss new fascinating stories about World War II and learn about the points of view of all sides involved in those events. The Kursk salient through the eyes of German soldiers, Operation Citadel, the blitzkrieg that failed. The German High Command developed an ambitious plan codenamed Citadel, the main goal of which was to capture the strategically important cities of Belgorod, Orel, and Kursk, where the headquarters of the Voronezh Front was located. Two powerful German army groups, Army Group Center and Army Group South, were to encircle and completely destroy the Red Army units defending the Kursk salient, like pincers. If this plan were successful, the Germans expected to encircle the armies of the Voronezh and Central fronts, creating a strategic springboard for further rapid advance deep into the Soviet Union. On July 5, 1943, German troops launched a powerful offensive simultaneously from the north, Orel direction, and the south, Belgorod direction. However, Army Group Center encountered insurmountable resistance and was stopped by the efforts of the Red Army units under the command of Marshal of the Soviet Union, Konstantin Rokossovsky, who fought with incredible courage and selflessness. Army Group South, despite fierce resistance from Soviet troops, managed to break through two defensive lines in the Oboyan direction of the Voronezh Front and was rapidly advancing towards the third, key defensive line located near the village of Prokhorovka. The fall of this line would open a direct path to Kursk for the German troops and create a real threat of encirclement of the Soviet troops. In view of the critical situation, the Chief of the General Staff, Alexander Vasilevsky, made a difficult but necessary decision to transfer the 5th Guards Tank Army under the command of Lieutenant General Pavel Rothmistrov from the reserve of the Steppe Front to provide assistance. Rothmistrov's risky maneuver, a race against time and technical difficulties. Rothmistrov faced a complex task to cover a distance of 320 kilometers in an extremely short time to reach the site of the upcoming battle in a timely manner. This forced march had an extremely negative impact on the technical condition of the tanks. Almost a third of the vehicles broke down due to malfunctions and breakdowns caused by excessive loads. In addition, parts of the army were greatly strung out on the march, and more than 50 combat vehicles failed to arrive at the deployment location by the start of the Battle of Prokhorovka. Meanwhile, German reconnaissance, warned in advance about the approach of Soviet reserves, organized a sudden tactical breakthrough, capturing the strategically important Oktyabrski State Farm, located on the dominant height. This allowed the Germans to occupy extremely advantageous positions for organizing a strong defense. In such a difficult situation, a counterattack by the Soviet troops was associated with colossal risk. The units of the 5th Guards Army had to deploy and attack on an extremely narrow stretch of terrain, no more than 10 kilometers long, wedged between the Psel River and the railway embankment. Moreover, this area was well covered by German artillery fire, and the enemy's powerful fortifications made it virtually impossible to quickly capture the height. Despite all these obvious difficulties and risks, Vasilevsky decided to launch a decisive counterattack, counting on the numerical superiority of the Soviet troops. 3 tank corps, with 597 tanks and self-propelled guns, were to break through the German defenses, overcoming fierce enemy resistance. For comparison, the Germans had only 335 tanks. However, one should not forget that the German Tiger and Panzer IV tanks had a significant advantage in firepower and armor protection compared to the Soviet light T-70 tanks, medium T-34s, and British Churchill tanks received under Lend-Lease. It was extremely difficult to create a single strike force in a narrow area, especially since there was a natural obstacle in the path of the Soviet tanks, a deep ravine that narrowed the attack corridor to 2 kilometers. Immediately after crossing the ravine, the combat vehicles inevitably came under direct aimed fire from the enemy, located only 400 meters away. Why did they want to execute Rothmistrov after the battle report? Heavy losses and the threat of a tribunal. On July 12, 1943, Soviet tanks rushed to the attack. The battle was exceptionally fierce and merciless. Soldiers fought without sparing themselves. Hundreds of vehicles burned. As a result of this attack, 334 Soviet tanks were destroyed, and more than 200 were damaged and needed repair. The Germans also suffered significant losses. 25% of their tanks were destroyed, and another 25% were damaged. The German command, by the way, made a number of tactical mistakes, for example, using Ferdinand self-propelled guns designed for sniper fire in a frontal attack. In essence, neither side could consider itself the unequivocal victor in this battle. The Germans, having lost a significant number of tanks, were able to continue the offensive for only 4 days. On July 16th, suffering irreparable losses, they were forced to curtail the offensive Operation Citadel and retreat. Rothmistrov, however, did not fulfill the task assigned to him to break through the defenses and encircle the German units. Moreover, his army suffered very heavy losses in equipment and personnel. In that situation, it seemed that he had lost the battle. According to the laws of wartime, Rothmistrov should have been tried by a military tribunal. A special commission headed by Georgy Malenkov, secretary of the Central Committee of the All-Union Communist Party, Bolsheviks, was created to investigate the reasons for the failure, miscalculations, and mistakes. Joseph Stalin, after carefully reviewing the commission's report, unexpectedly for many, canceled the earlier decision to execute Rothmistrov. A significant, if not decisive, role in this was played by the intercession of Alexander Vasilevsky, who ardently supported his subordinate, explaining to Stalin all the complexities and nuances of that operation. Having learned about the real, most difficult conditions of the operation and all the difficulties faced by the Soviet tank crews, Stalin made, as history has shown, the right decision. Rothmistrov, despite the heavy losses, still fulfilled a strategically important task. Although he did not completely defeat the enemy, he dealt him a crushing, irreparable blow, after which the German army could no longer fully recover and turn the tide of the war. It was a feat not only of Rothmistrov, but of all the Soviet soldiers who, displaying miracles of heroism and courage, stopped the advance of the German tank forces at the cost of their lives. The Battle of Prokhorovka became a truly turning point in the Great Patriotic War, after which the strategic initiative finally passed from Germany to the USSR. Goodbye, friends. I was glad to see you on our channel. Don't forget to write comments, like, and subscribe. See you soon.